everybody? It is Saturday, February 8th, and you know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Pierce. In a little mournful mood as we've lost some talent today with those cuts, but check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And for today's show, well, failing the hot hand. What does that mean? It means there's sometimes you got to pull the trigger on someone because, well, they are just hot. And we're going to be looking at some of the WWE failures, especially two really recent ones that really don't sit right with me. But for now, you know what's next. So just go on and hit my music. This list is very simple. Don't fail these people. They'll probably be in a future episode, but Lei Ying Lee at number 5 in TNA, the former Xia Li in WWE, has made her turn in TNA, and it's not been a year, so there is much to do with her. The Knockouts division needs more women, it needs more talent, and she was someone who didn't get a real chance in the WWE. TNA could use more knockouts, and she has been the perfect choice, the perfect pickup for them. With the Knockouts Championship, the Tag Team Championship, and even the Digital Media Championship, there's much for her to do. Number 4, Carmelo Hayes. This one could be number 1 just because when you look at seemingly the two other men who grew up, moved up with him in the NXT division, Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov, they have done just fine. Yes, Ilya is out with an injury, but they were clearly pushing him, and they've clearly pushed Braun. But what's going on with Melo? He will win a match and then lose most matches facing top talent, but clearly something's missing because this is the complete opposite of how he was treated in NXT. Number 3, Liv Morgan. Yes, I'm saying don't fail Liv because her 2024 was absolutely amazing. The heel turn, not really heel turn because she was right in everything she said and did, but that long championship reign and becoming a top talent in all of women's wrestling. The follow-up is what's important with Liv Morgan. Number 2, Megan Bayne. The statuesque Amazonian that is now signed to TNA has an opportunity to make a name for herself. Yes, she's known on the indies, but not like there was with Candice or Willow or a couple others. But Megan Bayne can afford herself well, especially in a division and in a roster on AEW that has many horses. The follow-up with her is very important. And of course, number 1, another woman in AEW, Camille. After seemingly being kicked to the curb by Mercedes Moné injury, we have not heard anything from her. One of the longest reigning champions of the modern era is finally signed with AEW, and I thought there would be big things for her, but seemingly nothing has been done. Again, like with Megan Bayne, this is a vision complete with horses and Megan and Camille and Willow and Chris and Hayter. There are powerhouses left and right in this women's division and there's enough for her to do. Just don't fail them. The spotlight is bright and it's shining on one Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf. Since joining the WWE has, well, become a dream opponent for many a wrestler. Every time Jacob stands across from someone, the crowd gets up, the crowd gets hype, and now that they're allowing Jacob Fatu to speak on the mic, good Lord, it is something to behold. This man is ready to move forward. This man is ready to climb the mountain. Everything he does has been gold. I just don't know what else to say about Jacob Fatu. He's great in the ring, and he's doing things that, again, men of his size should not be doing. And yet here we are, ready for him to face Cody, ready for him to face Roman, hell, ready for him to face Solo and Braun and every single person on the roster. With today's episode being about the hot hand and not failing someone, Jacob Fatu is right there. We'll be right back. The hot hand. It comes along every so often in wrestling where a man or a woman or a team has it, right? They have the crowd behind them. They have everything just clicking. We're seeing it right now with Jey Uso, which is why he won the Royal Rumble. And there have been times where in wrestling, especially the WWE, where, well, the hot hand was failed. Someone that was on a roll and WWE didn't pull the trigger. It sucks. It's hard to believe, it's hard to come by. But today's show, we're going to look at a couple moments, a couple wrestlers who WWE really failed with the hot hand. And maybe they tried, maybe they stopped, but who knows? And we're gonna keep this compact, you know what I mean? Especially with one of the persons who you ultimately knew about, and we won't rehash much of it. But we're going to start with Booker T. So you're asking yourself, well, how did the WWE fail Booker T? What do you mean with the hot hand? There have been moments in his career where Booker T had the hot hand and they roll with it. His tag team with Goldust, absolutely awesome. The Odd Couple tag teams almost always work in professional wrestling, and Booker T and Goldust were at the very, very top of that list. King Booker, it just kind of worked after he won the King of the Ring. Hell, King Booker worked so well that when he went over to TNA, he took really big parts of that King Booker gimmick and kept it over there. But you know exactly where I'm going to go. You know exactly where I'm going to go. WrestleMania 19. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, for the uninformed, for the uneducated, Booker T was feuding with Triple H going to WrestleMania 19. This was for the World Heavyweight Championship. And essentially, they were telling a very racist story. Coded messaging. Bringing up Booker T's past of him being arrested, him being locked up, but never really talking about him overcoming. And saying things like, you people don't deserve to win. You don't deserve to be on top. And when you do something like that, when you end up being so mean like that, well, it doesn't really work out. So going into WrestleMania 19, we were thinking, all right, there's only one outcome. There's literally only one way for this feud to end, and that is for Booker T to win the World Heavyweight Championship, a title that he has held before, because remember, he's a 5-time WCW champion. They used the big gold belt, which was the World Heavyweight Championship in WWE. It was a pretty good match. Booker T even hit the Harlem Hangover, and I think he only hit that move maybe one other time in the WWE. And Triple H hit a pedigree, and it took him 15 to 20 seconds to crawl over to Booker T, and Triple H won. That decision still has never set right with anybody, and Booker T wants to be the company man now, but let's be real, Book. You know you should have won. Everyone knows Booker T should have won. That's what I mean by failing the hot hand. It was such a disgusting disgusting, nasty feud, and yet the right man lost. That is not good. How about Kofi Kingston? I think you're going to see a trend here with the people on this list. I'm just saying. Well, where did they fail Kofi? There was one previous interaction before when he was feuding with Randy Orton, and it was a really, really good feud. Really, really good feud. And he maybe did one botch, and Randy Orton pretty much squashed the feud. Kofi was super, super, super over. But I'm talking about Kofi Mania. You got to remember this. I don't think Kofi Kingston was planned to go into WrestleMania. You know what I mean? If the reports are true, it was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. He got hurt and they pulled the trigger on Kofi, and everything leading up to WrestleMania was a thing of beauty. Vince McMahon putting obstacles in his way, in front of Xavier's way, in front of Big E's way, and them overcoming each and every time. The Usos forfeiting. And it was all well and good, and then we get to WrestleMania and Kofi wins in an amazing, beautiful moment. Kofi Kingston becomes the WWE champion, and Kofi Mania was alive and well. The Trouble in Paradise was a one-hit KO. He hit that joint, match over, and he had feuds left and right. Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and a couple others, and things were going well. Yes, it wasn't perfect, his championship reign, but he made a star. And then the debut of SmackDown on Fox. Kofi started feuding with Brock Lesnar. Right? Okay, I'm like, all right. Brock can do the job here, help elevate Kofi. He didn't do it with Muhammad Hassan, but we can do it with Kofi Kingston, right? A man that you should respect. Brock was still involved with the UFC at that point, and his biggest rival to date at that point was Cain Velasquez. Kofi puts the title on the line and gets squashed, gets buried, loses in under 10 seconds. Charges Brock Lesnar. F5. 1, 2, 3. The match is over. Brock Lesnar is your new WWE champion. And why did Brock Lesnar win this match? Why was the call made to put the title on Brock Lesnar? So he could defend the championship versus Cain Velasquez at Blood Money. And here's the thing. These two have so much heat and animosity towards each other. There didn't need to be a championship on the line. It's like when Vince just decided to put Charlotte in the Becky Ronda feud. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we never got Becky versus Ronda. So Kofi Mania was killed. It was dead. It was buried. And Kofi was relegated back to the tag team scene. That's how you fail the hot hand. Kofi Kingston was the most over man in all of professional wrestling around the world, and you failed him. You failed a guy, a man who has been there for you week in and week out, and that was it. Because you make unilateral decisions that just didn't make sense. Didn't make any sense. So Kofi Kingston was failed. One that really, really hurts me is Asuka. I've never seen someone with so many accomplishments that has done so many historic things and felt not as important. WWE has failed Asuka many times, but the main one was her losing to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Asuka won the first ever women's Royal Rumble. She won the first ever women's Royal Rumble. And this was good. This was great. But what happened? Asuka was coming in with her undefeated streak from NXT to the main roster. Over. Super over. We knew what Asuka was about. You know what I mean? And okay, she's going in to face Charlotte. She's going in to WrestleMania to face Charlotte Flair. Okay, that's great. The match can be fantastic. You just have one job. Very simply put it, she has to defeat Charlotte Flair. And what happened? She lost. Not only did she lose, they had her shake Charlotte's hand after the match. So you failed Asuka. You failed one of the most respected women in all of wrestling. And for multiple points in times in her career, she has had to play second fiddle to Charlotte. Mind you this. Mind you this. Asuka is only one of two women to win the Royal Rumble and lose. The other is Ronda Rousey, and they both lost to Charlotte. There have been 8 women's Royal Rumbles, and come this year's WrestleMania, Charlotte will have been in 5 of the 8 matches. Asuka challenged Charlotte and lost. Becky challenged Ronda. Charlotte was inserted into the match. Becky won. Bianca challenged Sasha. Bianca won. Ronda challenged Charlotte. Ronda lost. Rhea challenged Charlotte. Rhea won. Bayley challenged Io. Bayley won. Charlotte, her first win, challenged Rhea. Charlotte won. And now Charlotte is going on WrestleMania again, which no one is happy with. And yet Asuka, who has won TLC matches, won the Royal Rumble, so Survivor Elimination matches, Elimination Chamber, so on and so forth, count the accomplishments. And yet they failed her. Because historically, you have the first ever women's Royal Rumble winner lose. That doesn't make sense. Now, mind you, she is a 4-time women's champion. But does it ever seem like she's a 4 times women's champion? Does it ever seem like she's felt important? And let's be honest, can you ever really feel important when Charlotte Flair's on the roster? You failed the first ever women's Royal Rumble winner. That shouldn't fly. That shouldn't fly. And lastly, Shinsuke Nakamura. The WWE failed him twice. The same year that Asuka won the Royal Rumble, the same year Shinsuke won the Royal Rumble. This is great. Okay, coming up from NXT, making a name for himself, being elevated. At the time, the champion was AJ Styles, and AJ and Shinsuke have history from their time in New Japan. All you had to do was say, hey, y'all got 25 minutes. Go out there and do your Wrestle Kingdom match. That's it. Do your Wrestle Kingdom match. And that's not what we got. We got such a boring slog of a match with Shinsuke turning heel and spending the whole entire summer low blowing people. And Shinsuke lost at WrestleMania. So you had your first two Japanese superstars win the Royal Rumble, and they both lost the same year at WrestleMania. Now, Shinsuke had a better match with AJ later in that summer, never won the championship. So you failed Shinsuke. Because he was great in NXT. And then the second time, well, not last year, 2 years ago, the end of 2023. So you had the World Heavyweight Championship be established, right? And I get putting the championship on Seth Rollins. That's fine. That is all well and good. And you had Shinsuke turn heel and feud with Seth Rollins. And Shinsuke was over. He was super, super over as this bad guy. And we were telling a story about Seth Rollins and his back and how it's hurting him to move forward. He's just slowly moving along. And Seth won every single match in the feud. Hell, their final match was a last man standing match in which Seth Rollins got dominated by Shinsuke Nakamura. Dominated by Shinsuke Nakamura. And Seth won. Okay, you wanted Seth to go into WrestleMania as champion. You could have had Shinsuke win that match, hold the title up until what? The Chamber. Seth can get the belt back, but now you have established Shinsuke as a main event player. It's that simple. It's that simple. He could have had a couple feuds, lost the title, and nothing because you refused to pull the trigger. How do you fail Shinsuke? How do you fail Asuka? And it was hard for both of them to recover. It's been hard for Shinsuke to recover, going in and out of stuff. And yes, he's the United States champion now, but will he ever become WWE champion? Who knows at this point? I won't even get into the failures of Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens because I could clearly add them to this list. They should be in this episode. But you failed Shinsuke, you failed Asuka, you failed Booker, and you failed Kofi. You have to be better. Shinsuke is a chameleon, and yet you didn't want to establish him? Why? How? Asuka's one of the GOATs, and you didn't want to establish her or to satiate Charlotte? You killed Kofi Mania and you let a white man win a racist feud. The failure of capitalizing on that hot hand, it's a time-old tradition. When will it change? When will it get better? But that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Look on the screen what we got coming up for the month of February. Just going through the whole month on there. I'm going to try to be better, try to be a little bit more consistent. Got to get stuff on my Instagram. Check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Anna J, Willem Nightingale, Chris Statlander, Gigi Dolan, Isla Dawn, and Bailey. Holla at your boy. Peace.